So here we are. We've got our like world box done. We've got our player on the inside, the info player start, this guy right here. I've tested my map. I ran it. I know that the seams are all good. I've got my skybox. I picked some kind of ground. And so pretty much now I've got this empty box. Now we're going to start building our house. And the way that I like to build the house is I kind of like to puzzle piece the floor together and then put in the walls, doors, windows, and stuff like that. And then finally, at the very end, we'll put in the roof. So if you have a two-story, we're going to do it floor by floor. If you have a single story, we'll do the first floor, walls, doors, windows, and then the roof and the ceiling. That'll all be done last. So we don't want to do anything concerning like the roof or anything until the very end. But so here's how we're going to do this. So first off, the house isn't going to be built. You're not going to put your walls directly in this dirt or grass. So we need to put in like a foundation of some kind. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our block tool and we're going to make a box. Okay, so I took my block tool, I drew out a box, and then I'm just going to go ahead and create that box. All right, so here's the first piece of my house. Now you'll notice this is not the right size. It's huge. I didn't look at the size on it or anything. So I'm going to say the first room that I need to do is 12 feet by 12 feet. Okay, so if you remember, we had our feet and inches measurements. So if I come up here and I click map, units, feet and inches, and then if I use my selection tool and click on this block, down here at the bottom of my screen, you're going to see that this block is 37 feet 2 inches wide, 40 feet by 10 inches long, and it's 6 feet high. So this is a huge box. It's way too big. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in on it, and I'm going to reduce it down, and I'm going to say I'm going to try to make this thing 8 inches tall. Okay, so I'm going to put it right on the ground. Okay, so I just grab it, I can drag it, so I'm going to put it right on the ground. And then I'm going to be watching the height. So if you look right here, currently it's 1 foot 2 inches. So that means it's what, 14 inches tall. So I'm going to grab this thing and I'm going to shrink it. And I'm just going to keep going down until I get to 8 inches. Okay. So there's 8 inches tall. 8 is because that's a good step height. The player is able to step onto this. So coming into your house, if you've got like a single step or a porch or anything like that, this would give you a single step height. So if you wanted to do stairs leading into your house, you'd have to make this say 16 inches and then put a step in front of it. But for today, let's just do really simple. We're just going to do like say an 8-inch. And so this will be my foundation, the cement that's underneath the house. So I've got the height right. Now I'm going to get the dimensions, the length and width done properly. So I'm going to zoom in from the top, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to shrink it, and so if you watch my measurements down here, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to shrink it, and I'm going to go for 12. Zoom in a little bit. 11, 12. Okay, so there, it's exactly 12 feet this way. Now I need 12 feet this way. So I'm going to grab it and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to shrink it. I'm going to watch my numbers. So here it says 11 feet 10 inches. So I'm going to zoom in, grab my little thing here. I'm going to move it out. That should be 11, 11. And there's 12. So, and it looks like I bumped it in 1 inch going the other way. So I'm going to grab it, pull it out. Close enough. Now remember, the hammer units aren't exact inches, so you may find something where you can't get exactly 12 by 12 Oh, looks like I got it that time. But if you're off by an inch or something like that, it's not a problem. It's not going to cause us any issues. Um, it, but still, just be aware. You may run into a point where you can't get the exact measurement you want, but you'll be able to get pretty close. All right. So there's my 12 by 12 by 8. So this is like the first piece of my house. Okay, first room. I've got this right here. And that's going to be my first room. Now remember, I told you when we make these rooms, if you had a room that was say 10 by 10, we wanted to add a little bit to it. We want to add 10 or 20% to give us a little more gameplay area because of running around with the player hull and AI navigation and stuff like that. So this 12 by 12 room, I might want to move it out to like 14 by 14, or if you've got a room that's 16 by 20, you may want to do like 22 by 18. So it's always better to give ourselves a little bit more room to play in than making everything super, super small, and then the AI won't be able to navigate it and stuff. And we talked about that back in the beginning. So if you've got your measurements, add a couple feet to all the numbers. If you've got rooms that are 10 by 10, make them 12 by 12. If you've got rooms that are, 20 by 10, 22 by 12, or, there isn't like a super precise exact amount that I need, but we just want to add 10 to 20% to give us room for like the player hull. Because remember, it's not a human walking through here. It's basically a 6-foot cube or rectangle, I guess, that's going to be moving through the map. That represents the player. So we need to kind of, make things a little bit bigger in order to accommodate that. All right, so I got this done. Now, if you remember from one of the lessons in the last 2 days, we talked about the grid. So if you're using the large grid, these grid squares are going to be so big that you're not going to be able to make a 12 by 12. It's going to skip 2 or 3 feet each time. So remember this button up here, this little minus and plus with the grid. This changes the grid size, the scale of the grid that we're working with. So I usually run it at the very smallest, which is like a 0.75, or it's weird. They say a hammer unit is 0.75, but I can move things an inch. So we'll just call it an inch just for simplicity. So if you run this thing all the way down, it'll give you like about an inch of movement on here. So I can grab objects and I can move them 1 inch at a time. So it gives me a lot of precision for how I can move these things. If you're using a large grid, what'll end up happening is when you move stuff, it's going to jump, and you're not going to be able to, like, you see how far that's jumping? It's snapping itself to the grid, and so it's moving it, like a meter at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and run this all the way down. Just click it 10 or 15 times. It'll give you the smallest grid possible. And now I've got this really nice grid that I can move things really, really precisely on. All right. Now the next thing I would do is I would go ahead and put my material on this. So let's start with like concrete. Since we're doing like the foundation of the house, I'm going to go ahead and put concrete all over this thing. And we'll do carpet and stuff later, but for now let's just make it all cement or concrete. So I'm going to go to my texture tool. I'm going to click it, browse, and I'm going to type in, let's do like cement and see what it gives me. Okay, that gave me nothing. So let's do concrete. There we go. So I'm going to go through here. I think I'll do this one. Double click. Okay, so there's my concrete. Now I'm going to go over to my thing here, and I'm going to right click and just go ahead and apply that concrete to all sides. And I'll get the bottom too. Okay, so now I've got this thing, it's all done up in concrete. I'm going to close this, go back to my selection tool. So now I've created one perfect concrete foundation. It's 8 inches tall, it's 12 by 12. This is the first piece of my house. I'm going to put it back on the ground. Okay. Now, here is a time-saving trick for you. Okay, so I've got this thing here. This is my first room. I started out. If you come into this view, your top view, any of the two-dimensional views, but I'm going to do it from the top. If you hold down Shift on your keyboard, so I'm going to hold Shift, left click on the box, left click and drag. When I release the left mouse button, it creates a copy. Okay? So the thing that's going to help me with is now this is the same material, same height, but say I've got a hallway. So I could shrink this to the hallway, and I could take this guy, plug it in right there, and then, I don't know, maybe I've got a bathroom next to it, right? So I'm going to go Shift, left click and hold, drag, release the mouse first, then let go of your Shift button. Then I can take this one, shape it, touch it, go back to here, or any of them actually, Shift, left click and hold, drag, release the mouse, release the Shift button, and then I can place this one. Okay, and you could see how quickly I would be able to make my house. So I take that very first block, the very first one I made, I get it perfect. I make it exactly what I want. The material I want, the thickness I want, I make it the size of that first room. Every subsequent room after that is simply going to be a copy of that room. So your assignment today is to go through and do the floor plan for your house, that bottom floor. And even if there's rooms you're not using, we're still going to fill in that space. There's going to be floor in there. The rooms are just going to be blocked off and empty. We're not going to worry about lighting them or putting anything inside of them. But we are still going to, put the floor in there because we need the footprint of the house. We've got to have the entire footprint of the house so I can put the walls around the outside. And if you skip rooms, you're going to have parts of your house that are missing. So we're not going to make the insides of the rooms, but we are going to at least put the floor down. So you should have that map of your house with the dimensions of the rooms that we're going to use. So you're going to create those accurately. And then for any of the unused spaces, we're just going to fill it in just so we have some floor. We're not going to worry about things like, interior walls and closets and furniture inside those rooms we're not using. So we've got a list of rooms that we have to do. The other rooms, they're going to be there, but they'll be empty, no lights, no materials, that kind of stuff. Okay? All right. So to recap that copy one more time, this will be the best time saver you have for this lesson. Okay? We're going to come into one of our two-dimensional views. I'm going to Shift, so I'm holding down the Shift button, left click and hold, drag, release the mouse first, then release your Shift button. Then you can come in here and we're going to line these up really nice. So I'm going to zoom in, get these perfectly touching, and then I can rescale it if I need to. Okay, but see how quickly I was able to put together that floor plan right there? And I mean, I made this up, but still, you can see how quickly this would allow you to build everything. All right, so your assignment today is to build the floor plan for your first floor. If you have a second floor for your house, hold off. You could make it, I guess, off to the side, and then we could move it on top of this one once we get the walls in. But don't do any walls yet, just the floor plan. For the walls, we need to talk about thicknesses and doorway openings and window openings and stuff like that. All right, so that's it for today. Get your floor plan down just the way I showed you today, and then and make each room individual. And the reason for that is when we decide to start putting in floor materials, if it's all one big solid block, I can't split, like, say, the kitchen and the living room. You can, but it's harder. So with this system, like, say this is my kitchen, I can go through here and I can do, like, say, a tile floor, like, say, this one. Okay, so I could do a tile floor, and then say I wanted to do carpet over here, so I could come over here, browse, type in carpet, and let's go with this green carpet. Okay, so that's the purpose of doing these rooms separately, is I can do the floors differently. I could have tile, wood, concrete, carpet, whatever you need. So that's why we're doing them room by room, and we're puzzling it all together, because it lets us do the differences between floor materials in the rooms. Okay, and you can go ahead and put your carpet and stuff down today if you get done. Otherwise, just at some point we'll end up doing that. All right, so that's it for today. Get the room, all the rooms laid out, including the rooms that you're not using. And then if you still have time, you can start laying out carpet and tile and wood floors and that kind of stuff.